Welcome to the Masters Championship Podcast. I'm Daniel Wilson, and here we are in day 2 of the tournament. And boy, did we have a lot of scoring from yesterday. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, let's go over today's schedule for day 2 of our tournament. We're going to start things off at 9:30 in Group A with the United States going up against their close rivals, Greece. Over in Group B at 11:10, we have Haiti and Italy going up against each other. And at 10 o'clock over at Arena 2, Team Canada will take on Portugal, and that's going to be a high-intensity game. Back in Arena 1, Women's Great Britain against USA at 12:50. Saskatchewan and Slovakia will take each other in Group B at 14:30. At 16:10, back at Group A, Greece and Canada will take each other on. At 1700, it'll be United States and Great Britain over at Arena 2. 1750 over at Arena 1, Group B, Haiti and Bermuda, and we'll end things off at 1930 with Women's Great Britain up against Canada. Now, to recap yesterday's games, I have to start with Canada up against United States because we've had a classic. It was Canada this time around 7-3. We kind of knew that Canada was going to be a powerhouse in this matchup here, but what the big story is someone I did not originally have on my radar, and that's Jeremy Bishop. Last time we had the Masters tournament, he only came out of the tournament with only 4 points. This time around, he's already got 3, and it was a hat trick. All 3 of them were goals. And if that wasn't enough, the third goal is a Michigan. And that got the whole arena erupting. And Joey Delgado had a chance to talk with him after the game.
Okay, I'm standing here with Jeremy Bishop, who just finished off a hat trick against Team USA, helping Team Canada win 7-3. And then his third goal of the hat trick, he scored a Michigan. And apparently, you've done that before. Tell us about that, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, the play opened up. TR was going hard down the middle. Defense was just watching him. The goalie turned his head, so it opened up, flicked it out there, got a stick on it, and down she went up under the bar. Yeah, so it's pretty nice.
Apparently, you've done this before in tournaments.
Yeah, I did it in 2019 at a World Tournament and also 2015. So.
Oh, and 2015
yeah,
too.
Yeah. So.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thanks.
So that's great. So obviously, big help. Hat trick helps you beat Team USA by 4 goals in the first game of the prelims here. Now, next up, you've got who?
We play Portugal tomorrow morning, followed by Greece tomorrow afternoon. So we know that they're 2 fast teams. They like to play a little bit physical, like to bang and crash. We feel that if we keep our feet going, the skill, work ethic, it's going to be a good one. But if we stay at the box and stay disciplined, then we've got a good chance of winning against Portugal. But we know it's going to be a battle against both of those teams. So
I mentioned many times how it is difficult to pull off a Michigan in ball hockey. It's hard enough in ice hockey, but when you're trying to balance the ball on your stick, that takes extra skill to pull off. Some other notes from this game is that Canada scored 5 of their goals in the second period, which pretty much put the game out of reach for the United States. Marcel Lafortune came out with 2 goals. I expected him to be one of the big goal scorers for Canada. Terry Ryan gets on the board with 2 assists. And meanwhile, on the other side for the United States, Jared Hirsch, after his 3rd appearance at the Masters tournament, gets his first ever Masters goal. So congratulations to him. But of course, they're going to need a lot more of that, and they'll have some time to work on that in today's game against Greece. Now, moving on to Great Britain up against Portugal, and Portugal pretty much asserted their dominance in this game, 8-1 over Great Britain. One of the things I was pointing out with Portugal yesterday is that we were going to be learning more about them because they were a much bigger team than they were before, and boy, did we learn more about them. Ricardo Pires gets 4 goals this time around. There was no Michigan in this matchup, but it is very clear that he is the guy to watch. And also watch for Tony Monteiro, who scored a goal and 4 assists. So you got 2 players that scored 5 points on the team. Got Danny Pacheco, who scored 3 assists in that game. And if you look back onto defense, Victor Azevedo scored a goal and 2 assists. So this is a very powerful Portugal team. It will definitely be making a lot of noise this time around. And to top it all off, they went on the power play 4 times and they scored all 4 times. So that was very dominant. But we'll see how that works out when they face a more challenging team. And in fact, they did, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But first, let's go to Italy and Saskatchewan. Now, Saskatchewan takes out Italy 7-1, another one-sided game. But what was interesting to me in this one was that they were not really flexing their top line. 6 out of the 7 goals by Saskatchewan were scored by different players. I've already mentioned Justin Donterball. Justin Bernhardt was another, Mitch Bragg, Wade Stafford, Brian Ritzema, and Joel Thompson. So they came in with quite a bit of depth, unlike last year, where it was more of a top 6 power forwards for their team. So I say Saskatchewan is definitely a big one to watch aside from the main Canada team. Over to the women's division, Canada and United States. Speaking of Canada, I was not kidding when I was saying that Canada was looking to try to get their gold medal right back as they took it to the champions. What stood out to me was that Canada only allowed 10 shots. That is a very strong defense, just denying your opponent the chance to even reach your goaltender. Jessica Jones, Jocelyn Larocque, and Alyssa Desmer-Pelletier scored multi-point games. So Canada is definitely a favorite to win the women's tier. But of course, it is still early. It is still game 1. And also of note, the United States also went 1 for 6 on the power play. That was where their only goal came from. Over to our defending champions, Slovakia taking on Haiti, who is in the Masters for the first time. And Slovakia did not let up. A 10-0 victory in favor of our current champions. And just look down that list. Few names speak out to me. Lucas Lachiak, I was mentioning, was the one to keep an eye on. He had not scored a goal in the previous Masters. He's already scored 2 this time around. And despite this being a 10-goal game, there were no hat tricks recorded. There was a lot of players that had scored their first goal for the tournament. What made Slovakia even more dominant was that they got 49 shots on net. That's almost unheard of in 12-minute period games. So Slovakia was one of the questions I had, seeing that they had lost their top players from the previous tournament, whether they're going to still have a powerful offense. And I think they answered the question right there. We'll see as time goes along if that's still going to be the case. Now, moving on, Portugal played again yesterday, and this time they went up against Greece. And Greece controlled the play for much of this game, straight from period number 1. But you could tell that the tables were starting to turn around the second period. Now, with that being said, Carl Gingras scored a hat trick, which helped Greece get the 6-4 win. They scored 3 goals in the first period. Now, Portugal did attempt that comeback in the third period, but fell short. Tony Monteiro did score 2 more goals to add to his tally. But one thing we are keeping an eye on for Portugal is that Danny Rocha did suffer a leg injury, and we'll try to have a status report later as to if he'll be able to play today's game. And let's go to Italy's second game of the day. They went into overtime against Bermuda, and they thought that they had the game-winning goal from Adriano Faccioni, but unfortunately, it was called offside. It ended up getting waved off. They clearly weren't happy about it. So this game went into the shootout, where you got the hands of Jonathan Pulicicchio, who out-dekes Derek Farmer and gets the game winner anyway for Italy. They get the win 2-1 over Bermuda. But this was a goaltenders matchup. John Noel Scaretta coming out with a 954 save percentage. Derek Farmer with a 970 save percentage. This was a really good defensive game by both sides. Michael Varelli got the first goal for Italy, and Christopher Hans-Jackson gets the only goal for Bermuda. And you saw me in the previous episode talk about Jeremy Esty. He does get the assist out of that goal. Finishing things up in the women's division, Canada winning over Great Britain 7-0. And it seems that with every game that passes, they just look stronger and stronger. And one name that stands out in this game, Ashley Burrell, with 2 goals and an assist in this game. This is her first Masters, and she's making herself well known. And along with her, Alyssa Desmer Pelletier, also with 2 goals in this game. And she has really been having a hot streak in this tournament. And we haven't even talked about some of the other names I've been mentioning in episode 2 of this podcast with Becca King, Shelley Cockrell, or Chantal Frichet. This is a very dangerous Canada team. And so both United States and the United Kingdom really need to make some changes if they expect to have a shot at the gold medal this year. But there's still a long ways to go. But that's going to do it for me this time around. Enjoy today's games as we continue on in the round robin. And soon we will be in the weekend to see who will be playing for the gold medal. I'm Daniel Wilson. We'll see you next time.